Hi, everybody. How are you doing today? Well, this is African Queen Mo Show, and it is the 21st. Is it already? Can you imagine? Of March. Yes, 2025. And we are talking about relationships. Today is a Friday. I hope you guys have been good. It's TGIF. It is Friday. Yay. But don't we have a very interesting show for you today? Today, we're going to discuss something called cheating, infidelity, mainly among spouses, yeah, and maybe anybody who's in a relationship, people who have experienced this infidelity with their significant other, with their love, with their real love. Why did we decide to talk about it? Because we want to try to understand people's psychology. Why is it that people actually cheat? Why? you know why not just like stop the relationship and just say close it off and say goodbye? Why decide to be this person who is just dishonest? Why sneak in the background? What for? I mean, are there not enough fish in the sea? I'll tell you what, I think most of us, if we were honest, would say that we are victims of cheating or cheaters ourselves. Yeah. So today we have my colleague Susan in the background, and she's waiting. But just before she comes on board, I want you guys to know that you can actually join our StreamYard. There's a link on the right hand side, and you can join us as we talk about it today. Unfortunately, I don't have my microphone, and I hope that you can still hear me clearly. And yeah, it's a little bit of a different setting, but yes, that's it. So, why do spouses cheat, you guys? Why do they cheat? Let's first look at the research and see what they say. But you know what? I have enough information. I don't even need the research, to be very honest. Yeah. But what they say is, I wanted to know really not even about why people cheat, but how do people feel when they cheat? How do they really feel? Is it a good feeling? Is it a feeling of uh, accomplishment? Is it like are you is somebody actually trying to get back at somebody else, or why is it that they do that? Yeah. So, some people feel guilt and remorse. That's what they say. And some people feel guilty and some people feel sad and, sorry for what they've done. And that's probably most people because, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, we've actually been inbuilt with a conscience. We are machines in some way. Our bodies are built, not by ourselves, but by a creator who was smart enough to know where to put the pedal and the brakes, yeah, and to help us to know when to stop, when something is not right, when and so that's the reason why a lot of people actually feel guilty. And when they feel overwhelmed with guilt, they either react in two ways. They feel either very remorseful and very sorry, or they become very defensive and possibly even violent, and now that was coming even from myself, by the way, most of this. So when you're very remorseful and feeling sorry, you'll find that some people will compensate and overcompensate for what they did, and they'll come and they'll be lovey-dovey. All of a sudden, somebody who was not paying much attention to you will start providing you with gifts and taking you out and saying nice things to you because in the back of their mind, they know what they have done. In other cases, those people who actually decide to do that just, turn off their conscience, they turn off their emotions, and they become distant and actually unfeeling and cruel. Yeah, and that's quite a few people who do that. Yeah. So again, there are some people who feel that they're justified. They're justified to cheat. They had a reason to cheat, and they blame the other partner. They say, "Oh, the other partner is no longer attractive. They gained too much weight, or that they deny them intimacy, they deny them sex, or maybe they feel like they don't appreciate them enough." And so they give reasons, they give justifications for why they should cheat instead of trying to work on their relationship and maybe go for counseling or talk to somebody or talk to their spouse. They actually decide to seek attention outside and then blame the other partner for the situation, as if a relationship is a perfect thing. Yeah. Again, they might also decide, oh, well, it's not such a big deal. I cheated. Oh, come on. I don't really feel anything for her. So they might actually downplay the whole thing and convince themselves that it doesn't really mean anything. Whereas, you know what? It's actually almost impossible to become intimate with another person and not have something going there. Almost impossible. Because if animals do feel that connection with another when they are intimate. Why is it that human beings don't? That doesn't make any sense. All that has happened in my view is somebody has turned on off their conscience somewhere. Yeah. And in some other cases, some people cheat just because they can, just because they think it's exciting. I mean, why, why zero grades when you can actually go out there and be a free ranger? So some people actually just like the idea of a secret affair, the forbidden fruit. And they're like, wow, why don't I try that one? Why don't I try that one? These are people who are insatiable. Yeah, people who have a spirit of envy and jealousy and greed. They're the people who can never be satisfied with one person and always want to try another person. It's like going into a candy shop and saying, I want to try that Kit Kat bar. I want to try that, M&Ms, and I want to try this and I want to try that. So men and women both, they look at this kind of woman and they say, wow. They look at this kind of man and they go, wow. And they're like, it doesn't stop there. And one of the things that I learned from actually my mom told me that even if you get married, by the way, it doesn't mean that you stop becoming attractive to another person or that you will stop being attracted to another person. It's up to you to put the brakes. It's up to you as a married person to put the brakes. And I really thank her for that, because you see, sometimes what happens is that when people get married, they actually become more attractive to the opposite sex. Just like, for example, when some people actually have interests in women who are expecting babies. A pregnant woman can actually be very attractive to another man who is not even her partner, or a married man can be very attractive to a single woman, because they're just not reachable. They're just not. I think it's that forbidden fruit thing. The excitement, the thrill, of just trying something new, boredom, just being bored and thinking, oh well, let me just do this and do something different. And other reasons are, anxiety. Some people who cheat, they live in some sort of what we say, kind of like they have fear they have fear, they have insecurities, they have anxieties. They fear that their partner might leave, so maybe they want to keep an extra one in the bank, put one in the savings account and one in the checking account. So the wife or the husband is the one who's there now. But just in case they leave, they have another relationship going in the background. And some people become so paranoid, when they actually cheat. They become paranoid and they start, checking their phones to see, who's checking. And, they become defensive when they're questioned about that. And many people who cheat, by the way, they live in fear of being caught. So all the time, their eyes are rolling, rolling, rolling. And they're never comfortable in their homes. Yeah. They hardly spend much time at home because they feel uncomfortable. Again, other people, when they cheat, how do they feel? They feel conflicted. They feel, oh my goodness, well, I do still love my husband or my wife, to be honest, but at the same time, I still like this other person, so I don't want to really let go of them. So you have, a conflict between desire for another person and your commitment, and what you said about committing to your relationship until death do you part. And many people decide that death will part them so that they can just go and fulfill their desires. And they find ways to get rid of their spouses, and which is very sad. That's actually on the extreme. Another thing they may just decide to do instead of getting rid of them is actually just to ignore them. And which is even worse, to be feelingless, literally. That indifference and lack of remorse. Some people just don't feel guilty, they feel nothing. Some people actually feel nothing. Some people don't even have capacity to feel. They have probably a mental or emotional disorder. Yeah. And therefore, they're like, hey, you know what, me narcissistic, and they're like, hey, you know what, it's all about me. Who gives a hoot? Who cares about you? They lack empathy. So they don't care. Woman or man, they don't care. As long as they get what they're going to get. Yeah. So if it's a woman, she may be interested in something material from the man, most likely. And she doesn't care whether she cheats on her husband or not. Yeah. She just like, okay, look, you didn't provide what I expected. You didn't really, you're not really living up to what I expect you to be. And therefore, you don't really have a right to have me fully. So, and I have a right to be independent. So I can choose to be with another person if I feel like it. Yeah, and that's the kind of people that we have in society currently. Same thing with men. Yeah, they feel like, you know what, I'm an African man. Excuse me. Since when were we supposed to be, you know, with only one partner? Since when? You should know better from your great grandparents that, you know what, I can have as many women, wives as I want, or I can have relationships as many as I want. Yeah, so Shadrach Hokindo is on board. Yeah, keep it up. Thank you very much, Shadrach. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. And everybody else who's going to join us, Karibu. So now I am going to introduce my wonderful colleague, Susan, and bring her onto the show. But guys, yeah, these are all I've just given you a little bit of a synopsis, a little background on why it is that people decide to cheat. Yeah. And the question is, yeah, why do some people feel regret and remorse? And why do some people feel nothing at all? Why? Susan, Karibu.
Thank you. Well,
Take it
welcome
from
everybody.
here,
I'm
girl.
happy.
Why
Yeah,
do people, why do cheating spouses feel regret or remorse? And why or why not? You
yeah,
don't actually have to start from, you don't have to start from there. It's just answering my question. You could start from anywhere,
yeah,
Susan. Yeah.
yeah. In fact, there are different types of cheating or categories, like emotional, sexual, and cyber. That's what I found out. That you know, of course, the emotional one is when you're invested emotionally in another person other than your spouse or intimate partner, or partner. Sexual, that's when you engage in sexual activity with a third party, or cyber infidelity through flirtations online with third parties. So there are actually three sort of categories. And yeah, and what Queen Mo was describing, and I was just ticking them off as she was speaking, was the various types of infidelity. There's opportunistic, obligatory, romantic, conflicted romantic, and commemorative. Yeah. So the opportunistic one is where a person is in love and attached to a partner, but succumbs to their sexual desire for a third party. It's driven by situational circumstances, opportunity, and risk-taking behavior, often induced by alcohol or drug use. So you're in a party, you're in a bar, stuff like that. That's when it happens. Something called propinquity, which comes to play. When because of physical proximity with somebody, easy for you to just lose your way. A person of the opposite sex. So that's opportunistic. So it's really about. It doesn't mean in this person who this type of infidelity, the person is still in love with their partner and attached to them. So I heard Queen Mo describing somebody like that, one type like that. That type of infidelity is called opportunistic. Then obligatory
Hmm.
is yeah yeah, the obligatory is where they fear resisting the sexual advances will lead to rejection. So there's a fear of rejection, a need to be affirmed. So it's driven by a need for approval and acceptance. So you act in ways that are at odds with your feelings. Um, they seek approval that comes with the attention of others. So obligatory, maybe you find that in a relationship where there's like an unequal, position. Maybe there's some sort of the person engaging in that is probably somebody who has a low self-esteem and wants to be affirmed, and yeah, so they are seeking approval from the other person, and that is at odds with actually how they are feeling. And then romantic is when the cheater has little emotional attachment to their own partner. So they have little emotional attachment to their own partner, but they are committed to making the marriage work. We know of such marriages. So they stray, and but they're committed to their marriage. So they won't leave their wives, they won't divorce them, or their husband, because of they're committed to making it work. So so they crave intimacy, a loving connection with a third party. And so what this my reading shows is this behavior may prevail until they sort out the unresolved issues with their spouse. So they will continue straying, but they will not divorce their spouse, but they'll continue to stray because there's no emotional attachment, and they're not addressing that within the marriage. So we've talked about opportunistic, obligatory, and romantic. The other one is conflicted romantic. This is where a person experiences love and sexual desire for more than one person at the same time. And this can cause a lot of anxiety and stress and end up hurting everyone. I know we've seen, multiple dramas on TV, which sort of are a reflection to some extent of real life situations. Maybe we've
True.
seen something like that happening. Devastates everybody in the end, and the result is usually very messy.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the commemorative infidelity, where you're committed to a relationship but no feelings for the partner, only some obligation, only a sense of obligation. So it's this type of person will, so it's tied to feelings of relationship dissatisfaction. So that person is not satisfied with their marriage situation or dating situation. So they justify it, as Queen Mo said, they justify it by self-convincing that they have a right to seek love elsewhere. They have a right to intimacy elsewhere. So that's what they do. And it deals with issues of unfulfilled sexual desires, or e.g., on issues of frequency, style, behaviors. And this cheater does not want to be viewed as a failure, so they stay in the relationship. So they're staying in the relationship because they don't want to be viewed as a failure. So those are the 5 categories of infidelity. And I know as we're thinking through it, we can, see examples of it. Um, I was watching a show. There was one of these political people who was on a clip on YouTube, and he was saying his problem is that he sees all these beautiful women, and if they are the ones who confuse him, so he ends up in messy situations because he's confused by all these beautiful women, and probably that is the conflicted romantic, the one who
It really gives credence to the Bible story of Adam and Eve. Honestly, it's always Eve's fault. She made me do it. She made me do it.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's quite a painful situation. Definitely when infidelity occurs, there's likelihood of, there's a sense of deep betrayal. Queen Mo talked about guilt, also the sense of deep betrayal and breach of trust, because from a Christian standpoint, the marriage is supposed to be between two people, and there's nobody supposed to come in between. So it's between two people, and that's the oath that you take before witnesses, and before God. And he desire, the Christians believe, we believe, as I'm a Christian too, that it's supposed to be one man, one wife, one husband. You're not supposed to have the multiple ones or anything like that. So when you introduce a third party, there's a sense of betrayal. And those are for those in particular who are, have gone through the monogamous marriage unions. We have them in Kenya here. We have the Christian marriage. We have the Hindu marriage. we have the civil marriage. Those are monogamous unions. Those where you have one spouse at a time. You can't have more than one at a time. But of course, we have the polygamous ones where you can have several spouses at the same time. And that's in the customary, and also in the, which is the other one, Muslims also can have, I think, up to 4 wives at the same time. So, that type of scenario. So some of the things that, and by the way, the fact that somebody may be in a union that's polygamous doesn't stop that person from straying even beyond the 4 wives they have. So you find that, they still may be battling with some of these sort of relationships. Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
infidelity really, like I said, I told you earlier, is the act of being unfaithful to a spouse or other committed partner. So whether it's uh, one spouse, it's you're being unfaithful to them, and it involves secrecy, betrayal, and negative consequences for one or all of the parties. And something else I discovered, I know the big question is, do both men and women cheat? So, a study done in the US showed that men are more likely to admit they cheated than women. So the men, their statistics are 20% will admit, and women 13%. But I think in society, both men and women are actually cheating. And I'm not sure what the differences are, but they're saying that the gap between the men cheating and women cheating is narrowing. And there are a number of factors that have contributed to that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's narrowing. So both sexes are actually can cheat. I know in the past we thought, the men were always accused of being the cheaters. In fact, there was a really unsavory word that we used to use
Mm-hmm.
when we were growing up. For,
What was that
for
word, Susan?
eh?
What was that
you
word?
don't doggers. Do you
Oh,
remember?
yeah, yeah, that's true. Oh my God.
Yeah, but the reality is
Giving
today is
dogs a bad
both.
name because you see, dogs don't know
Yeah,
what they're doing. They're not cheating. For them, they're just being dogs. You know what I mean?
but it's very
They're just
unpleasant.
being who
Yeah,
they're wired to be.
yeah,
And this is the problem with humans. They think that they're wired to be like dogs, but no, we're not wired to be like dogs.
yeah,
We are
yeah.
conscious beings. You're not conscious. There's a word for it. It starts with an S. What is it? It's like where you're aware of what you're doing and the consequences and things like that. Yeah. Animals are conscious beings also, but I think for us we have a higher reasoning capacity. We have a much higher reasoning capacity than animals. I mean, we're not at the point where it's just about survival for the fittest, and just operating with instinct. No, not really. Because there's so many consequences to it, guys. There's financial consequences as well. If you have a child with somebody who's not your wife or your husband, that's an issue right there. That's a financial issue. That's also a moral issue. It's a family issue. It becomes such a huge issue. And so the consequences are big. You don't see animals going to have abortions and things like that. They don't. They don't go to think, oh, what's going to happen to the next monkey family, when they realize that I've taken off with his wife. They don't think like that. Yeah, we're the ones who think like that. And there's a reason why we have that mind. Yeah, because again, they say that human children actually grow at the slowest rate of all most animals. Yeah, it takes so long for a child to become an adult. And Susan, I didn't want to take over. Continue. Oh, you were done.
No, you were, you know, yeah, I agree with
Oh,
you.
okay. I was
It's
on a tangent. Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah. So I'm just saying
mm,
that, yeah, we cannot try to, this thing of dogging, I actually don't like it because it's a kind of a way to give men an excuse to dog. You know what I mean? Or to behave like dogs. But are women married to dogs or to humans? That's the question. Yeah. And anyway, there are women nowadays, by the way, like you said, the gap is narrowing. And it's true. Because in fact, when you look at the TikTok videos and you look at, because that's where most of the young people are, they're on TikTok now, you'll actually find that there's so much justification for not being, for example, for not being faithful. There are words like marriage is a scam, being single and not ready to mingle. That's the way people are going now. But even if you're single, you're still having extramarital affairs. You're still having affairs, and you're still being broken. You're still experiencing being cheated on, being so-called dogged, yeah, or dogging. That is not being faithful to one particular person. And so you're actually being injured and you're injuring. So to be honest, I don't know who's really winning here. Is it the people who are married, or is it the people who are single, who are also damaging each other, because of this betrayal? Because I think maybe we should maybe share one or two videos about this issue, unless you have something to say, Suzanne.
Yeah, I was
Let me
just going to
show.
pick up on
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
say, what my research has shown that why men engage in infidelity. It's usually there are many. It's a complex mix of factors, and it includes relationship dissatisfaction, unmet needs, insecurity, seeking external validation, or a desire for variety, and underlying issues like addiction or immaturity. And I think the other one we'd add there is just misogyny. The misogyny and patriarchy. That
Mm-hmm.
women belong to that we shouldn't ask them questions. That we should not men should not be asked any questions once they leave the door. You shouldn't ask them any questions. It shouldn't come as
Yeah.
a surprise to you if they stray. And it's actually quite a serious thing.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things they talk about, so they've categorized them: relationship related factors, dissatisfaction with the relationship, communication issues, unmet needs, lack of affection or intimacy, falling out of love, revenge, as Queen Mo also picked that one up, situational factors. This is propinquity,
Mm.
when you are apart from for long periods of time, or you go on a business trip with somebody of the opposite sex, boredom. And then individual factors include low self-esteem, insecurity, immaturity. We know that is, I'm the guy, and I have to score points. Remember the stories about is it notches on the head post? Is it something like that? How many
Huh.
notches you have on your head post, that sort of thing. So the more, the merrier, and you're the man, you're the real man. I think some diseases came to
Actually,
put a
there's
stop
another.
to
You're
that.
talking about notches on the headboard. Actually, the word that they use here is body count. Huh?
Body count,
Basically, body count.
terrible, terrible.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Uh,
What's their
addiction,
body count? Oh my
yeah,
goodness. Mm-hmm.
addiction, mental health issues like bipolar disorder can increase the risk of impulsive behaviors,
Yes.
including
Yes.
infidelity.
Yes.
Personality traits such as narcissism can be associated with a higher risk of infidelity. Childhood experiences can sometimes contribute to this. Seeking adventure, we mentioned that. Lack of healthy boundaries. Some men may struggle to set healthy boundaries in relationships, leading to crossing of lines. And
Yeah.
that's the issue
Yeah.
of not knowing what that no means no. We've had lots of, men not understanding that a woman's no means a no. A woman's
Mm-hmm.
remember that no means no, and
Mm-hmm.
so there can be a lot of like sexual harassment in perhaps in the office space and stuff like that. So, sort of
Mm-hmm.
inappropriate behavior, and not even respecting the wife and her friends. You find sometimes men will try to have relationships with the wife's friends or even sibling or something like that, not having that sense of this is not a line. They're playing too close to home, let me put it that way. So they're playing
Mm-hmm.
too close to home. And by contrast, um, women have their 12 reasons. Stress of home life, that's the caregiving and all that, feeling unappreciated, so it kills your desire for sexual intimacy. And then the other one is dissatisfaction in a relationship, low self-esteem, emotional starvation, anger, retribution, lack of excitement, sexual deprivation, loneliness or
Mm-hmm.
emotional disconnection,
Mm-hmm.
insecure attachment style, and midlife crisis and opportunity. Again, women, interestingly, also opportunity midlife crisis occurs between age of 35 and 60, where people look back in their lives and say, I've got to do something new. I've got to, what am I going to achieve? I'm heading towards the end of my life. And, so you feel that you haven't reached the potential you want. So you try to make up for lost time, which may include actually the risky behaviors. And the
Mm-hmm.
insecure attachment style, I think we talked about this in another mental health show, that there are 4 attachment styles. There's the secure one, which is well adjusted, anxious fear of abandonment, which would be now uh, one of the triggers for infidelity, avoidant, preferring independence from others, or disorganized, pushing people away. So you'd find that perhaps the people who are wandering off would fit in the anxious, fear of abandonment, and perhaps the secure, the one who is confident and has other reasons for wanting to engage in to practice infidelities. So, for instance, somebody who feels unappreciated at home, because we work and then we come home, and that exhaustion, and not feeling appreciated, sort of like kills the you know the that desire for your spouse. So such women will not always, they're just saying that these are sort of triggers that would cause women to stray.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Susan, and talking about feeling unappreciated, I actually found somebody who talked about that exact same thing. That some men actually feel so unappreciated that they go out there seeking validation and appreciation from women out there, which is from other women who are not their spouses. So why don't we listen to this and see what this guy? Okay, one of the guys says this is not really that particular thing.
Find themselves in extra relationship.
Okay, so listen to what this guy says. I'm going to play a couple
One
of
of the
them for you.
reasons that men find themselves in extra relationships is because of admiration. The second reason they find themselves, and what makes it easy for them to give in to those temptations and vulnerabilities, is because the other chick has figured out how to show him a lot of appreciation. She accepts him for who he is. She accepts him with his flaws. It's not right. It's never right to cheat. Don't cheat on your partner. But if it happens and you figure out why, I've heard thousands of men say, man, bro, I felt appreciated. I just bought lunch for her. She appreciated. I gave her a card. She appreciated. I get it. She only sees part of it. She doesn't live with him typically. Why does a good man, okay? Why does he go there? He's vulnerable. And one of the reasons that
Okay, so that's one of them. Yeah, talking about feeling appreciated. Yeah, there's a man, he says that it's because they feel unappreciated by their spouses, which is very interesting to listen to, by the way, guys. Let's listen to someone else who also says something probably a bit different or similar. Who knows? Yeah, let's listen to this guy here. What does he have to say?
Yeah. So why do guys cheat when they're happy? Because they're insecure. They cheat when they're happy because they have a hole inside them. They're trying to find the value in themselves, and the only way they find value is by dominating and hunting down primal instincts called sex. So they can't help themselves. They want to feel as if, look, I still have it. Because when they're with somebody for so long, even though they're happy with that individual, it doesn't satiate their void, because they have a hole that will not be fulfilled without work. So they cheat even though they're happy because they're really trying to make themselves feel worthy. They're insecure. Their insecurity is the problem. That's really why happy dudes cheat, and or they're just fucking pigs. Why do good men, happy men in their relationships cheat anyway? Well, they cheat because they have a hole that they're trying to fill, and they're trying to remember that they're worth something, and they use the I like to say dominance, because it's really you're chasing women to satisfy a hole inside you, and obviously the copulation is the climactic arrival of you saying, see, I'm worth something. I can still get a girl to hump me. You cannot be happy with just one girl because you are not happy with yourself. And when you say, why do happy men cheat? Well, truly happy men don't. Truly happy men do not cheat.
Wow. Did you hear that, guys? Truly happy men do not cheat. Yeah. I truly believe that. I truly believe that. That many men cheat from the emptiness that's in them, the void that's in them, and that another person cannot really fulfill, whether it's the wife, the girlfriend, whoever. They have to fulfill that themselves. It's usually when a man is at his lowest that he would do such things. It's rare, in my view, where a man is at his top, where he actually has even the time or the energy to cheat. When I think a man is feeling low with himself, when a man is doing really well with himself, it's rare that he would do such a thing unless he really is not in love with his partner. That's my view anyway. But let me show you maybe one or two more and then we can move on. Yeah, I just came across these ones. I thought they were quite interesting. And by the way, cheating is not just physical, it's also cheating with money. Some people are not they're not honest with the money in the household. And here's one of them who's explaining it exactly,
I was holding my son.
Hold on.
It is at that point that I knew I would never see heaven. You see, we were in the bank manager's office. My wife was there. I was holding my son, 3 months, and the manager, my wife was crying, and the manager was asking, who could have withdrawn the money? How? Because it's not possible. If you had the ATM, now he was talking to my wife. And there I was saying, that is very criminal. Who could, I'm flabbergasted. Who could do that? There I was. And I knew at that point, sioni heaven. I looked at her and she was, and hapa nimeshika mtoto like the father, I model father. What I didn't know was that kumbe ATMs zinakuanga na cameras. And so when the manager said, lakini, there is no worry, don't worry. We are going, these are police case. And then he said, we are going to check the CCTV cameras at the ATM lobby. As the point I knew, oh my God, changu kimeumana, nitaenda Kamiti. Karibu niangushe mtoto, lakini bado nilishikilia mtoto. Na bado nikasema, yes, huyu anafaa kwenda Kamiti huyu. But the moment we got out of that, the CCTV was not available. It was coming from Nairobi. It was being sent from Nairobi. So by the time the manager request, tulikuwa tutoke, sijui tuende clinic. Mimi wakati nilitoka hiyo bank, nilikuwa najua huko sirudi na sikurudi. Sikurudi. Lakini that was back then. An alcoholic can lie. The lies I used to tell, mpaka saizi naangalianga hivi nashindwa, kwani hiyo spirit ya uongo ilienda wapi? Hii kuzi ni kama shetani anaoperate your nini, your hard disk. Yeah? Yaani naangalia manager hivi namwambia, kwanza naangalia, my wife hakuwa anajua kuwa mimi nilikuwa nimejua ATM. Hakuwa nakumbuka, alikuwa ameniambia akijifungua nimtolee do. I think alichange pin, lakini bado nilijua ATM ilikuwa inafichwa, lakini bado nilikuwa najua pale iko. So nilikuwa natoka usiku naenda Karatina usiku withdraw pesa. Withdraw na kunywa. Wife anafikiria bado na watch movie. Kumbe kijana amelewa, anakuja 5 asubuhi. Nikakula pesa yake yote. Okay. Lakini dhambi zote tulisamehewa. So heaven tunaenda.
Oh my gosh. This one is hilarious, guys, and sad at the same time. This is financial infidelity, where this man, for those people who don't speak Kiswahili, this gentleman, this is his real life story. He actually runs a recovery center, and he always talks about alcoholics recovery. And and he was saying that he took his wife to the bank with their newborn, and he was holding the baby as a role model, as a model father. And as his wife was narrating how she doesn't understand how this money has been siphoned out of her account. And he's also saying he was flabbergasted and shocked by, I mean, who could possibly be doing that? And yet, actually, it was him. And so the bank manager said, oh, you know what? We do have CCTV cameras. I think we're going to order it from Nairobi. I believe that was just one way to, to kind of scare him. We're going to order it from Nairobi so that he can come, because apparently he wasn't in the city center. And then he thought to himself, oh my goodness, I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to go to the big jail called Committee Prison. Oh my goodness, I'm going to go to jail. And in the meantime, he was saying, yeah, whoever did that is terrible and he should actually be punished. And in the end, when they said that the CCTV was not available and they were going to have to order it from Nairobi, he knew in his heart he was never going to go back to that bank, because he was the culprit. He was the one who was waking up in the night when the wife and the baby was sleeping. He would wake up and take the ATM of the wife, because the wife forgot apparently that she had requested him to use her ATM to get money for her while she was in hospital delivering their baby. And he still retained the ATM in his mind. It's only that she had hidden the ATM card. She had hidden it, but he always knew where it was. So he went and he found it, and then he would go to the town and he would withdraw money and drink all night and come back and lie on the couch and pretend that he was watching movies all night. So that was the long story, because some of it was in Swahili. I don't like my non-Swahili speakers to miss out on these stories, but this is what happens. So there is financial infidelity too, and that is infidelity as well. It's part of cheating. It's part of not being honest, part of being dishonest in a relationship. And it's actually something that causes a lot of divorces, I believe, when people actually take the money without, without discussing, without agreeing. Many wives complain that their husbands have fleeced them of money. And also many men also complain that these women are gold diggers and taking money from them without, or selling their assets, or tying assets to loans and things like that. Those kinds of things can actually break relationships, and they do break relationships. Again, there's also lazy spouses who I could say cheat because they actually decide not to pull their weight and not to work and not to earn money, and therefore they leave everything on one or the other spouse, and they don't help and they don't contribute financially to the household. So financial infidelity can either be that you are actually stealing the money, or that you are not giving enough of your time and yourself to help your spouse to meet the needs of the household. Because nowadays, as we know, most households can only be run really by 2 incomes, unless maybe you're very lucky, you're one of the very lucky few. But many families need support from each other. Many couples need support from each other. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I was just watching that gentleman, the one with the recovery center, the last video you've shown, and that definitely when there's alcohol taken there, the opportunistic infidelities that could occur, because that's what happens when often when people are inebriated, you find them getting intimate with somebody else who's also you know who's also in that group of people who are drinking. And many of them who are recovering will tell you stories about how they were down this path where there was a lot of infidelity. They were drinking, and there was a lot of infidelity, separation from the spouse, would not even go home for many days. At least he was going home. Some don't even go home for many days. They're not seen. And in that period of time,
Yeah.
they've been with other people. They've been with other people. So it's quite, and they engage in quite risky behavior, which is quite endangering for the family. So usually with the economic or financial infidelity comes also the opportunistic infidelity, where people do, when there's alcohol involved or drugs or anything like that, anything, that could just lure you down a path where you're not in control of your faculties. Remember, I don't know whether you remember, there was a song in this, is it late 90s? Arusi yako yekekeke. And the Kenyans here, we remember that song. There was a song that went Arusi yako yekekeke, which means, I think it means that
Uh-huh.
your marriage is just is finished, it's all over. And there's a
Unfortunately, I wasn't
picture.
around that time. I missed that really important song. I need to look for it, download it, and play it over here. Harusi yako ya
Yeah,
kekeke, my goodness, I have to look for it. That is amazing.
yeah. And there
Harusi
was
is
a
actually
picture,
a wedding,
actually.
but your wedding of, yeah, it sounds very Nigerian. It sounds like Niger cinema right there, you know.
Yeah, it means, it's
Yeah,
a,
that's
like
all
a
up in
very
the air.
descriptive word. Yeah, wherever it's lost, you've forgotten about it. You're just,
Ya kekeke.
and I remember seeing,
That describes many marriages today. Kekeke. Many relationships. Yeah.
I,
I think they just
I
like the
remember,
words. African words are rich in descriptions.
yeah,
Eh?
yeah.
Yeah, African terms.
I remember seeing the caption in the newspaper, and they were sort of like, they were talking about this alcohol called Ken Brew. I'm sure the Kenyan listeners know what Ken Brew was, and that Ken Brew was a very, very strong alcohol. You just needed like half the number of quantity that you take normally just to drink that. It was that strong. So in drinking that, arusi yako ya kekeke. So there's a picture when they're talking about this Ken Brew. A cartoonist has drawn this picture of this man dancing with this lady. I mean, he's gone to the bar and he's dancing with the barmaid or somebody, and having a great time, with this person who's not his wife. And that's when, and he's dancing to that song, harusi yako ya kekeke, you know and basically, it was quite a good descriptor of behaviors when people have consumed alcohol. You don't see well, you don't hear well, and everybody's beautiful, and everything's, you forget your family, you forget your wife, you forget everything, and everything else happens. So that type of infidelity occurs. So and like I said, many people who are truthful enough, and they have tendency to go out, drink a lot, and with all this company, they will admit to perhaps forays out of home, which
Yeah.
is which is not right. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me thank you, Susan. Let me present something else. Hey, I like to listen to men when they talk about these things. Maybe let's listen to what guys are saying here. We want to share and see what they're saying. Oh, I hope I didn't lose it. Um, Harusi yako ya kekeke. Interesting. Never heard of that before. But I mean, it makes sense. Okay, let's see what this guy has to say. I think this guy is probably South African. What he says about cheating men. And for some reason, I've been listening to men a lot. Because men hardly speak, yeah? So let's listen to what they have to say.
And any man can cheat and still love his wife. I'll say any man can cheat and still love his wife. I'll say no. It's no longer love. He doesn't love you enough. He doesn't love you wholeheartedly. When your man cheats on you, he has shown you clearly that you are a backup plan. Cheating is a choice. Loyalty is a commitment. So I'm committed to you. It's a responsibility. So I'm responsible for being loyal. I'll give a very good example. We are having an argument. Then I decide to go out there and expose myself to the world as a free man. Then I enter into a predicament where I ended up cheating on you. Like what Rachel is going through, right? As a man, I've defiled my ability to become a keeper.
Wow. You see, this actually, proves the fact that there are some men who really feel strongly against this whole idea of, entitlement to cheating, because it's a sort of entitlement. Yeah, they actually state that while that person is cheating on you, they actually don't, there's no way that you can simultaneously love someone while you're also cheating on them. Even if it's temporary, that love has gone away, it is a fact that you have made a choice. And when he said that, it is a choice to cheat, it's a choice to be loyal, it's a choice, to keep your covenant, to keep your relationship, to keep your vows, then yes, I would agree with that it is a choice. It is a choice. And just like, love is also a choice, commitment is a choice, cheating is a choice, everything is a choice, guys. We live in it, we make choices every day, whether we make good or bad choices. Factors, these are choices. And one cannot just say that, just say ke, 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 this happened out there, no, it's your choice. It's you who decided to cheat. It's you who decided to, not be faithful to your vows. You decided. But what I want to say is that in the end is that, so what? So what happens then? Next, what's next? So what happens? And that's the key question, because many of us, should I say most of us, most married people have either been victims of or have been perpetrators as cheaters. So what happens? And yet there many marriages are still intact. The thing is, it's also a choice about what to do. It's your choice to forgive. It's your choice not to forgive. It's your choice to stay. It's your choice to leave. Yeah. And the question then becomes, does this person feel regret and remorse for what they did? Or do they feel a justification? And do they feel that it was a sort of obligatory, opportunistic and obligatory as well? Yeah. He has to be faithful to the male race. And cheat just like all other men. Men always go, hey, you done us proud. Or the same thing with women nowadays. Things are changing. And I think what matters is that where the beliefs and values and morals of these two people clash, if that issue is not sorted at that point, then in that case, that relationship really doesn't have anywhere to go. At some point, people have to make a decision they have to make a decision based on people's actions. If somebody has cheated, what does that make you feel like? If somebody cheats on you, has cheated on you, or is cheating on you, how is that making you feel? What is that doing to your self-esteem? How did that make you feel? How does that make you feel if it's happening now? And therefore, is this something that a feeling that you want to continue with? Is this something that you feel is viable, that you can live with? Whether you're a man or a woman with a spouse who is cheating, is this something that is viable for you to continue with this person, especially if they don't have remorse, they think it's their obligation, they think it's their right, they think they're justified. Do you think that this is something that you can live with? And what I could probably say on your behalf is, most likely you might cheat yourself for a while, that it's okay, that you can manage it, that all men cheat, that some women cheat, that there's no perfect marriage, that there's no, but at some point it will get to the point where it's no longer viable. It's not. And so for the cheating spouse, the person who is actually doing the cheating, they need to know that their 40 days of cheating is over. Their 40 days of stealing is going to be over very soon. And for many women, a lot of women stay in marriages where the man is cheating for a long time, but eventually they leave. Eventually it comes to a point where the woman just says enough is enough. Because you see, the emotional toll of that on her psyche is so serious that now it becomes a matter of life and death almost, it's a matter of now her choosing whether choosing herself or choosing you. And most human beings will choose themselves. The same thing with men. A man may tolerate his wife cheating for a while, and but usually they don't tolerate that long. But some men have tolerated it for long, and I actually personally know of a man who tolerated the wife's cheating for so long that he actually jumped off a building and killed himself. Eventually, he committed suicide. It can actually, that's why when I say it's a matter of life and death. So I think it's not just a matter of violence. Violence can also be emotional. Emotional violence is, cheating is emotional violence. It's violence. Even for all intents and purposes, it is violence. And if a spouse has been cheating and is remorseful and wants to stay in a relationship and says that they're sorry and all that, I think it's also important for that couple to go through some sort of, if not counseling from another couple, at least they should talk to one other person who is not in the marriage. Somebody maybe like a pastor, a good friend, somebody who knows them both, somebody who can talk to the two of them, because it's not something that one should take very lightly. Cheating, we're laughing here, but it's not funny. Actually, it's not funny at all. Yeah, and so we want to try to, at least, as I can see Susan shaking her head, it's not funny at all, by the way. A lot of people in the world are single today because of being cheated on, because of the pain of betrayal, the pain of knowing that somebody actually chose to be with somebody else rather than you and decided not to let you know. I think maybe if the person, decided to cheat and said, you know what, I'm going to go cheat on you, that's better. But if somebody actually does this behind your back, this is the kind of betrayal that makes you lose faith in humanity, lose faith in another person, another human being. So I would say, the issue of a cheating spouse should be taken seriously in a relationship. And why do some people feel remorse and regret? Why do they not? Some of them, it could also be their family history. They've seen it with their parents. It's normal. It's in their family. They saw it with their fathers or their mothers. They saw it. It wasn't a big deal. So nothing much. Yeah, it's just life. That's just it. Or they've watched too many movies, or they just subscribe to that belief that there's no person who can be completely loyal to one person, that everybody needs to have, some sort of variety. Yeah. And why do some people not? I think it's just because of certain belief systems. So I think when seeking your partner or checking out your partner, that's a very good sign. If somebody is willingly going on with cheating, even when, for example, they're caught, even if they're caught and they're still continuing, and they're doing that openly, especially they're doing it openly, that means that they don't even think that there's anything wrong they're doing, then it becomes something that's completely untenable and unviable and not viable. Yeah, I think it's different from for instance from something like polygamy, because polygamy, the way it's done in the African way, is that the woman is asked, the wife is usually requested to find another woman to be her co-wife, or to approve another person, or it could be religious. So in that particular case, there's sort of consent, some sort of consent. But in this particular case, we're talking about a situation where somebody's actually going out of the marriage without consent of the other spouse. So I think that, that kind of cheating should be looked at. And today is Friday night. We're talking relationships. It's a difficult topic. But what I want to tell women and men is don't sweep cheating under the carpet. Eventually, it will come back to bite you. Yeah, it will.
That's for sure. In fact, those are some of the behaviors that are indicators that is likely to recur, because the issues that are causing it or triggers have not been addressed. And of course, like the gentleman said, it's a choice. Cheating is a choice. It's a choice that somebody makes. You know, loyalty is a commitment. You know, you say, I'm in this relationship, I'm married to this person. It's actually a commitment. But cheating is a choice. And Queen Mo talked about earlier about some of the effects of cheating. We talked about on the side of the cheater, perhaps guilt and hopefully remorse. On the side of the person who's been cheated, there are a number of things. They experience pain. It can be so severe. The psychological effects of the cheating can be so severe. It's akin to post-traumatic stress disorder. Their reactions, their psychological reactions to it, and that deep sense, because of the deep sense of betrayal that person feels. Because, like I said earlier, when you get into a relationship with somebody in a monogamous union, let's be specific, but it can also happen in polygamous unions, because the person may be straying even beyond the legal spouses, or yeah. So that sense of betrayal is so severe. And so the other thing that occurs is something they call detachment. Detachment after infidelity. And this is where the person keeps an emotional distance because of that sense of betrayal. And then there's also avoidance of the issue and even that individual. And perhaps this person has chosen maybe not to walk away from the marriage, but is still in that space. But this is the way they are responding, you know. And so there's the emotional distance, there's avoidance. They don't want any sexual contact. They feel they can't really deal with it. And there's difficulty in engaging in intimacy. That's the not wanting the intimacy. And we can have, like we said, we can have both emotional and physical intimacy. There's the underlying trauma, those feelings of betrayal, anger, sadness, and post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. And detachment is a coping mechanism because it's the only way you can sort of deal with the situation. You know, depending on where you're from or your family setup, walking out of a marriage because of various things is very difficult for you to admit that failure or to go home, because still there's that sense of shame that they may feel, but it's not so much now. But it depends on the age of the person, but or
Stigma.
when they got married. Yeah, so that sense of not being able to go back home and say I can't live with this person. So it's a coping mechanism, the detachment. You are in this position, you're back in that person's house, you're back in your matrimonial home or wherever it is, and the detachment is a coping mechanism. It's a mental device that you have come up with just to cope with the situation you're in. Then the other one is, because of that behavior, the guilty partner may misinterpret the detachment and think it's indifference or lack of interest, but it's actually something that it shows that perhaps the person still needs time to heal. Still needs time to heal. And then the other one is when somebody has that detachment after infidelity, it may be necessary to seek help so that you can navigate the emotional stresses and deal with it in a healthy way, and to rebuild trust and intimacy. This is for a situation where the person has opted not to disengage completely, but where they have chosen to remain. As Queen Mo said, there are choices. You can choose to stay or choose to leave. But as as I agree with Queen Mo when she said, eventually when it becomes too much of a problem, you find the person who's perpetually betrayed, just having had enough and leaving. A rebuilding
Mm-hmm.
of trust, again, is so difficult. It's a process, it's not an event. It takes a long time for somebody to accept that the behavior has changed, that they can really trust that person, and that, that person is committed to the relationship. I know
Yeah.
that a lot of spouses stay together because of children, but sometimes I've also heard children confronting their parents as when they're adults, and ask, why did you stay? You shouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
stayed. And we couldn't take it that, this spouse was embarrassing you every day. Everybody knew what you were doing out there.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
why did you stay? Why did you stay? So it's quite it's quite a conundrum, and it's a case by case thing. The context really matters,
Mm-hmm.
and then you need to seek professional help, because this is not something that you can wade through individually. You need a lot of support to deal with that pain. It's extreme. It is so
Mm-hmm.
extreme that you can actually, it can even change your personality, to the point where you become detached. And when you're detached, you're sort of like emotional distant because of
I
the
think this
pain.
is what has
Again, that's it.
happened. Yeah. Sorry.
Hmm?
I think this is what actually has happened to a lot of young people. Because of this kind of free flowing society where people can intermingle with just everybody and anybody, no rules. There's no rules life. Yeah. I think a lot of people have been so hurt by this infidelity. They underrate this freedom taken too far. This freedom without limits, without borders, without boundaries, this individualism, this independence without boundaries. They've taken it so far, thinking that they can actually sleep with anyone they want, that they can, be in a relationship maybe for a day, 2 days. And they don't realize that these are scars. And the more this happens to you, the more scarred you get, the more scarred you get. Yeah. And so what happens in the end is that you become this person who has no feelings, no empathy. You can, like Susan is talking about, it can actually change your entire personality, change who you are, and not just towards your spouse but towards people generally. You have no trust for anybody, and you just live with this other person. And what is the worst thing is actually this person who is a perpetrator, when they finally realize what they did and that they lost that their spouse's love and support, they really grieve. Many of them really grieve. And a lot of marriages actually never heal from that. Yeah, because there's always, once bitten, twice shy. Twice bitten, I think 4 times shy. It's compounding. Yeah. So I think, like we said, infidelity is not something to play around with. It's not. It's better just to be single and stay on your own than be in a relationship where the person is actually, you're looking at the time like now it's at what time is it? 12:20. The guy hasn't come home. Where is he? What is he doing out there? Why hasn't he come? Yeah. Meanwhile, when he comes, he looks so happy and, full of energy or very exhausted. No time for you. He hasn't asked you, he hasn't touched you for a long time. This happens to women a lot, by the way, where the man doesn't actually demand intimacy or seem to be interested in intimacy. Same thing with women. So it's a very bad thing because it's a sort of rejection. Then the woman actually experiences rejection from this person and they're living with them. I think at some point, people should actually just face reality and just go off their way, man, and start over. Yeah, first of all, go heal out there and be ready to start over again, because this thing can be really, really bad, really, really, really bad. Because I don't think there's anybody who hasn't been touched by this. All of us have been touched. At least I have been touched by it when I was younger, especially. Yes, and it's bad. It's a very bad feeling, and it can cost you years of your life because you just don't trust anybody anymore ever again. And it can cause you never
Mm,
to have another relationship. So all I can say is that, do cheating spouses feel regret or remorse? Whether they feel regret or remorse, the fact is that there is a very serious impact. And
mm,
whether they do or they don't, the fact is that it's
yeah.
going to catch up with them at some point. It will change who they are. It will affect them, and whether they admit it or they don't admit it, the fact is that they'll be sad. It can cause depression and anxiety and all kinds of other mental illnesses and physical illnesses. By the way, do you know some of the physical illnesses that people experience right now? There's a huge growth of non-communicable diseases, cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, all these things, and many of those are actually created because they're actually a result of stress in relationships. A lot of them come because of stress in relationships. And so, inability to enjoy life, very bad thing. So, guys, if you have a cheating spouse, the least you can do is just move away from them, give them space. Yeah. Love them from far. That's what they say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just love. Some people should be loved from a distance, and it's okay. You can still love your spouse, but love them from far. Yeah, because you see, you don't want them too close to your heart, because your heart is all you have for yourself for the rest of your life and eternity. Your soul, your spirit. So you don't want your soul changed and damaged because of one person. And you yourself, if you are a cheating spouse, you need to understand that this can have grievous impacts on other people's lives, including children and even family members and friends and your work. Yeah. So I think that's all we have to say for you today. And I'll allow Susan to say one last word, then we shall close the show. Thank you so much. And we know that it's a bit late, and we hope that you guys who are watching the recorded show will give us your comments and your views. And yeah, share them with us. We'd love to hear them from you. We'd love to hear them. Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that as you were speaking, that came to mind was the shame of you
Yeah.
as the spouse who's being cheated on, being the last to know, and everybody around you has known what is going on and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, and
Mm-hmm.
also the friends, perhaps the people who know that is happening, that struggle of, do we say it or not, and how will that person respond to what we're saying? Will we be the one who's being accused of, you hear, you have those you hear about those type of conversations being held, but should we say
Mm-hmm.
something about it? Should we do what? Who do we confront? Do we go and confront the spouse we know who's cheating, because we know they're cheating, and tell them something? Or what do we do? I mean, it's a big, big, big dilemma. And
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes friends just have to be brave enough, courageous enough, I think, to find a way to pass the message, because the shame and embarrassment that the spouse who's been cheated on feels when they discover that's why everybody has been looking at me with such pity, because
Yeah.
this fellow has had, you know
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
I mean, it's so
shit. If only they
sad.
knew. This one who
Yeah,
keeps talking, my husband, my
laughing.
wife, my husband, my wife. They don't know that
Oh,
they're real cheaters. Wow.
laughing and
Wow.
laughing. Maybe some are mean, they're laughing,
Yeah.
and it's so
Yeah.
bad. So I
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to, talk about, at my last words, about how to overcome infidelity. Um, and so there's one is to acknowledge the betrayal and its impact. This is somebody who has made a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you overcome it? So you acknowledge betrayal and its impact. So for the betrayed person, you allow yourself to experience the emotions you're feeling, all the pain, all the hurt. Don't suppress the feelings. For the betrayer, this is somebody who has decided to turn themselves around, turn a new leaf, right?
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
take take full responsibility
Yeah.
and express genuine remorse without victim blaming. So that story of saying, "Oh, you never were not giving me this, or you are not doing this, you were not listening to me, or you were, that person should not. You should not. If you are the one who is straight, you should not give any excuses. You should be remorseful, and you should take responsibility for your actions. Secondly, listen to one another so you listen to you appreciate that person's feelings and perspectives of the issue. So you listen to hear, you listen to learn, you listen to understand, and not so that you can respond. So, and the third one is avoid blaming one another. Focus on understanding and on making solutions. And these are people who are committed to carrying the relationship to the next step, deciding to move on with it, to continue with the relationship, The other one is seek professional help. So you can get couples therapy or individual therapy. There are some people who will never go for therapy. They will never go. But of course, I'm talking about a situation of where the people have decided they want to try and resolve the issue and continue their lives together. When you think about it, in the traditional setting in our culture, there were those frameworks, those setups where keeping to the family together, keeping the marriage going, those mechanisms were quite strong, and they had their ways of sort of ensuring and providing the support to the married couple. And so there'll be older people who you could go to, and they'll come and help you to resolve your differences. That's a kind of therapy. These are people using their own experience and their honest own experience, because like Queen Mo said, marriage is not easy. These are two adult people who have decided to come together. It takes a lot of work, and it's hard work. So for every year a person stays in marriage, I think we should thank God and appreciate the effort that the couple has put in. Then there's the fourth one is rebuilding trust. That is a really tough one. It's a journey. It's a process. Once you've been betrayed, that pain, you're reminded every single time, about it. Is you have to be patient. You have to be accountable. Make sure that you make amends and demonstrate accountability, because in the process of being stray, you could have offended not just your spouse, but even her family members and friends.
Yeah.
You could have caused
Yeah.
a lot of damage. A lot of damage.
It's a roller
And then,
coaster, whirlwind. Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then be transparent. Openly communicate your thoughts and feelings. This is now to one another, and honesty is key. We're talking here about rebuilding trust. So be patient, be accountable, be transparent. Establish boundaries. Queen Mo talked about that. Establish boundaries. Define what is and what is not acceptable behavior. Within your relationship. Respect that enough. Love each other enough. Like that gentleman said, that if you stray, it means that you don't really love.
Hmm.
And then the fifth one is forgiveness and moving forward. Forgiveness and moving forward. Forgiveness is also a choice. Cheating is a choice. Forgiveness is a choice. And it's a process. It's not an event, so it takes time. And then
Hmm.
we focus on the future, focus on building a stronger, healthier relationship. Sometimes you find people moving away from their home or the space where they were, where they strayed. So to start a new life. But that's neither here nor there. And then you have practice empathy, understand each other's perspectives. So that means you really have to be better listeners to one another. Seek support. Your friends, not all of them, but
Hmm.
just the one or two who you really trust to keep your information and your stories, your situation private. Your family and support groups. Yeah, so these are some of the clues. These are not clues. These are some of the ways to deal with infidelity when you experience it. As Queen Mo said, this is the reality. When you have relationships, you may experience this. Many
Yeah.
people, I think, like if you did, we did what you
A
call it, a roll
survey.
call. Yeah, or a survey. We'd come
At
up
least
with a lot of
80%, because human beings they fail. They literally
yeah,
fail. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, they do. Human beings do, either emotionally or cyber. You can fall in love with somebody on the internet and just be chatting with them. You know what I mean? Or in the office or somewhere, but not. It might not even be sexual. It could just be, thinking about them all the time, and thinking about, oh, what if that was my wife? What if that was my husband instead of this one? That's also infidelity, unfortunately. Yeah, but I really think also that when it comes to surviving infidelity has a lot to do with loving yourself a lot. giving yourself grace, and doing to yourself and for yourself the most that you can to make yourself happy. I think that's very important, because you see, so for example, if you're in a marriage and your husband or wife has failed you and has, fallen off the track and been unfaithful, I think, and if you still love the person, you still want to stay with them, I think the most important thing now is to focus on yourself. Now focus, allow them to heal, to go through their manenos, yeah? And you focus on yourself, focus on what it is that you think might have contributed to that. Yeah, because by the way, on the other hand, in a relationship, when a mistake or a problem happens, usually there's responsibility on both sides. So it's important to reflect and look and see, where might have I have dropped the ball? Where may this person have had a reason, to cheat on me? So for example, if you've gotten out of shape, even for your own self-worth, even for your own health, it's important to get back in shape as much as possible for yourself, just for yourself, yeah, and also for your spouse, but mostly for yourself, and because it will help to rebuild your self-esteem. And the same thing, if, for example, as a man, there's a reason why, you veered off course and ended up cheating on your wife. Maybe because you're showing too much empathy to your colleagues at work, and one of them trapped you into it, and you know how men say they get trapped. Then the idea is, don't stay after work and hang out with your colleagues. Yeah, go back home, go to your wife. Find reasons to spend more time at home than to be out there, because the temptations are many. And unfortunately, good men are also few. And most married men are in great demand out there. That's a fact. So what we could say is that, and married women, but mostly married men. And why? Because a lot of women look at married men as people who are responsible, committed, and, men who are, stable, even financially. So what's important is not to allow yourself to be taken by emotion, to control your emotions, create boundaries, and protect the boundaries, because a lot of men also don't understand, a lot of language that women have. Women can smell, somebody who's after their husband from, even from a different country. They can tell just by looking at the husband's face. They can tell, hey, who's chasing you? They can kind of tell, all of a sudden, you can kind of tell. But it's important to listen. They say, listen to your wife, listen to your husband, and also, try, guys, to make it work. Do your best to make it work. But when it fails, when this person really has a character flaw, it could be a character flaw, because you will find the person not only cheats, but he also cheats on you. He also cheats on his business. He doesn't go to work. There are many other things that he doesn't have fidelity in him. He's not somebody to be trusted, in many other ways. So I think it's important just to look at the character of the individual and decide whether this is worth staying for or whether it's not worth staying for. Yeah. So in the end, it's your own decision. It's your own decision. And that's what I always say. I don't like to tell people one way or the other, just to provide the options on the table. And Susan and I have done our best to look at this whole situation as objectively as possible without being as subjective. But the fact is that majority of marriages go through this problem at some stage. And what's important is to look at the situation and decide where to go next. What's next? Yeah. And whichever way you decide to go, it should always be about maintaining your self-worth, your preserving yourself, because without yourself, without a healthy self, you cannot be there for other people that need you also, like your children, your work, your parents, your friends, life, community. Because we're not just we're not only responsible to our spouses, we're responsible members of community and society. Yeah. So on that note, guys, that was a nice lecture from Susan and I. It wasn't supposed to be a lecture. It was just like a tough kind of discussion, honest discussion about this. So lovely to hear you from you guys. It's been quiet there in the comment section, but we know it's a Friday and also it's late. And we hope that you will say something, over the weekend. You have some time to listen and respond. So see you on Sunday on the Mental Health Show, and good night from Susan and I. Thank you very much, Susan. Good night. And the one person who was Shedrick, good night, Shedrick. And also those who are in our live show, 3 of you in there, we can see you there. Thank you so much for being with us, and have a good evening and goodbye. To-dos. Bye-bye.